Back in the New York groove, or the New York blues, I should say. Welcome to Big Blue Avenue. I'm Tom Scavetta, joined alongside Sam Cardona Norberg. Sam, 2-12. How are we feeling this week?
I would have felt better if the Raiders won, but here we are. This is the life we're living right now. But I know that we were both pretty close to that score. I know we had the intuition last week.
We did. So the Giants lose to the Baltimore Ravens 35-14. Sam,
Shocking.
you had 34-10. I had 31-14. So you were 1 point off for the Ravens. I got the Giants score correct, but I was 4 points off for the Ravens. So both very close.
We just combined them.
I know.
You would have been right there.
Right there. Speaking of right there, the Giants were not right there, losing their ninth straight game, ladies and gentlemen. Tommy DeVito suffers a concussion. I almost said a concoction.
Same thing.
Week, yeah. And a new week brings a new quarterback into the mix. Tim Boyle relieved DeVito. Sam, went from a grease ball to another word that I can't say on air. But Boyle, 12 of 24 for 123 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Sam, I'll tell you, Boyle wasn't awful. I know immediately as he checked into the game, Andy Hopper texted me. He's like, I'm sorry, no fan should have to go through watching Tim Boyle play quarterback. But I'll be honest with you, he wasn't awful.
I think it could have been a lot worse. But yeah, obviously Tim Boyle is not either of our first choices in terms of who we want to be under center in the middle of a Week 15 Giants game. But at the same time, I think we're both kind of on the same page where we're just riding out the rest of the season right now, seeing where life takes us as we still sit at that number 1 spot in the draft order. But yeah, it could have been a lot worse. It definitely could have been a lot worse. We've seen Tim Boyle in the past come in and out to relieve hurt quarterbacks in New York in general. But yeah, I really don't have a lot to say about Tim Boyle.
Right. We'll talk a little bit about Tim Boyle in a few moments because I'm sure a lot of people like Sam have the exact same question. But in this game, the Giants got nothing going. Tracy couldn't run the ball much. They only gave it to him 10 times. Malik Neighbors scored his first touchdown since week 3. How pathetic is that?
Amazing.
Terrible. Yeah. Exact opposite of what the other said. But, it is amazing in a terrible way.
Yeah. All around, not good.
No.
All around not good, and I am very excited to talk about the plane.
Well, let's talk about the plane. Mr. Mara, enough was the quote this week. We won't stop until you fire everyone.
My first question is, how much do these planes cost? Because, this is now a trend. Actually, I just got told by Jordan that Eagles people are sending planes over their stadium as well, talking about the tiff that apparently was going on between Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown. So this is now a trend, but are they genuinely going to send a plane over every single home game for the rest of the season? I need to know who's in charge, who's paying for this, who's thinking up the words. There's a lot of questions I have, and I would love nothing more than to speak to the person that is in charge of all this.
It's definitely not a player. It's not Malik Neighbors. It's not Daniel Jones. Although there was a meme of him co-piloting that plane.
With Dave Gettleman?
Yes.
I saw that. AI is so good. It's getting too good.
FYI, did you see them pan to him on the broadcast last night at one point? It was in the first half. Just a direct shot of him. Yeah. Pretty much saying, yep, that's your insurance policy in the playoffs if Darnold goes down. So, but he's a Viking. No,
Because last week he wasn't. Oh, so he wasn't dressed again.
But he's still, I think he's still technically on the practice squad. Jones hasn't been elevated to their 53 yet, but
Got it.
It's ridiculous. And the reporters are going to ask Dable about the plane, and Slayton got asked about it, and Slayton doesn't think anybody's going, Sam. Giants are 2-12, and typically change has to happen when your record is this bad. A coach that goes from 9 wins to 6 wins to now 2, barring they win either 2 of these last 3 or all 3 of them, coaches don't survive this. And I hate to say it. Paul Schwartz brought it up today, saying that Dable and Shane, they were a package deal coming in, but they might not be a package deal going out. We've been under the assumption that they would be. Yeah. What do you think?
I would agree. I'm thinking it's going to be one of them. Unfortunately, at this point, after kind of going through these motions so many times in the past, 5 years or so, 5-7 years, we constantly fire the head coach and keep the GM, fire the head coach and keep the GM, fire the head coach, keep the GM. Eventually, you fire the head coach and the GM, get a new head coach and GM. And now we're going to do the same thing. Fire the head coach, keep the GM. Seeming like that's not working. And right now, I'm not a fan of either of them, but it really is concerning to me that, it is all coming back to these Hard Knocks episodes. It genuinely is. I have no confidence in Joe Schoen right now. And I could argue that I have a little bit more in Brian Dable, who we've seen win Coach of the Year, and we've seen win these football games as someone on the field, in touch with the players basically every single day. I'm unfortunately feeling like Joe Schoen is the one to go here, and I just don't think that that's going to happen. But there's a pattern, and the pattern is not good. There is no good that's coming out of this stuff. So I don't understand why we keep doing it over and over again.
Yeah, I think both of them have to go, but will both of them go? My prediction is no, that both of them will not go. Either one stays or both stays. I think at best only one is going to go. There is a lot of truth to this quote. I don't think Darius Slayton will be on a team next year to answer that question.
Yeah, I agree.
Look, the Giants had just 236 total yards of offense. The Ravens had 445. Not good. And this Baltimore team, in the first half, Sam, they didn't look all that great. They had 12 penalties for the game, some questionable decisions to go or to not go on 4th down. Adoree Jackson stripped Lamar Jackson. Brian Burns had another solid game. He's given 100%. It's so frustrating. Certain players show up on certain weeks and others don't. And that not far off comment by Joe Schoen really does not sit well with me, to be honest with you, because you're getting outgained by 200 yards to the Baltimore Ravens at home. And if you're not far off, you're not getting outgained by that much. Maybe 100, but not 200 plus. It's embarrassing. It's pathetic. I don't know.
And on top of the fact that these fans are spending their money on tickets to come to these games, to leave early, to not enjoy themselves other than probably getting super drunk on a Sunday afternoon, and just it just was that the motorcycle?
Yeah, and the dog jumped in the background. That time. Apologies, folks.
No, it's all good. But
it came early tonight.
Either way, I'm just it's so sad that we're the team with the people with the paper bags over their heads. I never thought when I became a Giants fan as a young girl, didn't think that we would ever be that team. That's the Browns. That's these the Panthers, these really bad teams. And then right now, that's us. There are people showing up to these games with paper bags over their heads, and it's embarrassing.
Don't love it. Don't love it at all. D-Bake with a comment. What's up, D-Bake? Appreciate you, buddy. Would you rather take Sanders for your future or trade back and accumulate more picks? So I'll quickly evaluate both sides to this, and then Sim, I'll let you get in on this too. Part of me thinks if you just go ahead and draft the quarterback now, the quarterback's going to fail because just overall how bad the roster is, and the roster management and moves made by Joe Schoen the last 3 years have stunk more than not. So, yeah, usually in a successful rebuild, the quarterback is one of the last pieces that you want to add. But on the other hand of it, look at the Commanders, for instance. They have a good quarterback who is a rookie. They have a lot of holes on their roster, and they're in playoff contention. So you can make arguments for both. Personally, what I would do, I would go ahead and just get the quarterback, because if you can add pieces during his rookie contract and you could see growth, that'll be something. And then you'll have a bridge for him to learn behind for a year. So I don't think there's a lose-lose there, unless they don't want Shadur. If they want Cam Ward, if they want Dylan Gabriel, I don't know what they're going to do. I think there's only two clear-cut first-round quarterbacks. We know Drew Aller has elected to go back to school for another year, so he is out of the conversation now. Quinn Ewers is still undecided. The rumor is he's going to transfer to a Big Ten school for the NIL, but who knows there? What do you think?
I feel like at this point in time, this team is so desperate for spark that it seems like the smart move would be to accumulate more picks, wait that year, draft Arch Manning, or wait for a better QB class, what have you. But at this point, if we have that first overall pick, we need a quarterback. And I don't think Shadur Sanders is a bad quarterback by any stretch of the imagination. I think he's a very talented individual. But, obviously, this quarterback class is not as strong as others have been in the past. But at this point, I would take a quarterback. It is a necessary – it's like the wound is open and we're bleeding out, and the quarterback is a gauze. We need something to stop the bleeding. Whether or not he's going to be our long-term answer, I'm not sure. But it's at this point, we need to see some sort of change. We need to see some sort of invigoration in this team. And if that's Shadur Sanders, or if that's Cam Ward or Dylan Gabriel, whoever it may be, I would take the quarterback.
Problem is there's still 3 games left in the season, and we'll talk about this a little bit later. The Falcons are 50-50 with Cousins starting this week. We don't even know if he's going to start. And this is a former regarded as a top 10 to 12 quarterback. Then you have the Colts, who have a really struggling team with Anthony Richardson, bad quarterback play. The Giants could easily back their way into winning these 2 games, because Daboll's coaching for his job these last 3 weeks. I don't think the decision has officially been made yet on if he's coming or if he's going. If you win those 2 games, you have 4 wins. You're not getting a quarterback now in the first round. So there's still 3 weeks left to be played. I say, Daniel, this is an excellent question. Let's reassess in 3 weeks from now and see where we'll be picking in 2025. Hi, Dad. Hello, Thomas and Sam.
Thanks, Hi,
Dad. Hope all is well down in the Sunshine State. I know we've had some rain up here the last day or two. Noah says, BBA really scrapping the bottom of the D list for guests tonight, I see.
It'd be like that sometimes, Noah.
We'll have Noah coming up soon. Yeah, it's been a rough season. A lot of the players on this team won't be back next year. But a player who will be back next year, linebacker Micah McFadden, who once again, Sam, in the absence of Bobby Okereke, has balled out. Last week, he had 5 tackles for loss. He had his 3rd sack of the season this week with 11 stops. How well has he developed since entering the league? Because this is a 5th-round pick. This was such a great value pick by Joe Schoen. One of the few, I should say. Eventually, you're going to hit, even if you have a blindfold on. This was one of his few day 3 hits in his 3-year tenure as Giants GM.
I mean, as our, third or fourth player of the week for Micah McFadden, because he's our player of the week for the rest of the year, when he first got drafted, he was obviously not that big name. No one's really paying attention to Mike McFadden. I'll give you your flowers as someone who's constantly has talked about Micah McFadden these last few years, saying, a good linebacker. Obviously, we're not seeing him in that shining light because we've been rolling through these linebackers trying to find a good fit when all along he's been on our roster, just not given that spot to be that leader, and he's been stepping up like nobody's business. It's really refreshing to see someone who's still in the game and wants to play the game and wants to win the game and is doing what he needs to do in order to win the game. Knowing good and well there's a good chance that we're not. So it's very refreshing to see. Micah McFadden has gone above and beyond this year. And even before Bobby O wasn't playing, Micah McFadden has been so consistent in his play, and I'm happy that he's on our team. I'm happy that he's going to be sticking around. It's really, really nice to see, especially after going through, the Blake Martinez years, and as some, hand to God, I was on that train, but he's been sitting here this whole time. It's nice that he's getting his recognition.
Absolutely. And to elaborate on that point, I think why he's developed so well is playing next to Bobby Okereke, having 2 years with Wink Martindale as the DC, where he can run free and blitz those open gaps. He's a really good blitzing linebacker. He diagnoses the run very well. He's quick to fill holes, and he's a hard hitter, right? When you have a D lineman up front like Dexter Lawrence, who can occupy 2 defenders on any play of the game, that's one less lineman that the linebacker has to worry about getting past to blow up the run. So that's why you've seen guys like Okereke and McFadden the last 2 seasons really hitting the hole hard. And I remember when McFadden was drafted, everybody was enamored with, was super high on Darian Beavers, and they weren't high on McFadden. Everyone was like, oh, I want to see what Beavers can do. And Beavers was supposed to start. Beavers is no longer on the team. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. But I will say, last year he had a missed tackling problem. He's cleaned that up. I just think he needs to do better at finishing against the bigger guys. Like Derrick Henry's a tough player to bring down. But McFadden has improved so much, and I'm happy that he'll be around and hopefully gets a new contract with the team after the end of next season. That would be great to see, for sure. Shout out Micah. And you got to find a diamond in the rough in a year like this, and that's one of them. Falcons Commanders has been flexed.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Well, D-Bake, you're in luck. We'll have Noah on shortly to talk about this quarterback controversy in Atlanta. Speaking of the Giants, this is weird, Sam. I don't think there's been a game this season where neither team has known on a Tuesday who's starting at quarterback on a Sunday. And with DeVito suffering the concussion, Locke just getting out of the walking boot, we don't know. And it very well might be the Hartford, Connecticut native Tim Boyle. Who is Tim Boyle, might you ask? Well, that's why we're here on your TV screen to show you, or your phone screen, wherever you might be watching, who Tim Boyle is.
Mm-hmm.
Sam, this is a journeyman. He's been around the league for a while, 30 years old, 6th season. He stayed in college for a while, but he's bounced around the league. And there's some okay stats about him, but there's also one really terrible stat about him that we're going to have to address as well. So why don't you get into some of those stats there for Tim Boyle?
Yeah, I'm reading them now. This is it. Very interesting. And right before the show started, I did ask Tom. I was like, Tim Boyle was on the Jets, right? That's the only place I remember him from. But he's been around since 2019 at this point. Packers, Lions, Bears, Jets started on the Dolphins this season, and then we picked him up like a month ago. 12 of 24 for 123 yards, a touchdown, an interception, and he was sacked this week. He has no first team reps last week. Perfect. And as a starter in his career, he has never won a game. So that's really cool. 0-5, 3 starts in 2021 and 2 in 2023. NFL teams are 0-11 when Tim Boyle throws a pass. That is the most insane sentence I've read today. That is so we're running the ball, hopefully, right?
You would think. I mean, you knew I dug that one up. And
that's incredible.
For those of you fantasy owners, like you, Sam, with Bijan Robinson, you're starting Bijan this week because you know Atlanta's going to get ahead. And they're going to run the football, regardless of who the quarterback is.
Yeah.
So, shout out Tim Boyle. Look, Tim Boyle is a bad NFL quarterback, but if any Boyle family members or friends are listening, Boyle would school any one of us in football.
It's very true.
But at the NFL level, he is bad.
I'm sure he's a wonderful guy.
Great demeanor. He handled himself beautifully in the post-game interview this past week. And even Malik Neighbors had a compliment for him, saying you couldn't tell Tim Boyle had no first-team reps this past week. He got him the ball for a touchdown. He's the first quarterback to throw Malik Neighbors a touchdown since week 3. So
I'll take that.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
But it's a circus. Michael Bradley, thank you for the comment. Appreciate you, buddy. Why is that dude still in the league? He was bad in college and continued the trend when he's played in the NFL. Well, there is a quarterback development problem in the NFL. So a lot of these bad quarterbacks, I think, are just sticking around. And now, with the practice squads expanding, teams are carrying 4 quarterbacks. And, of course, with that new 53 rule where one could be elevated and an emergency quarterback. Also, do I start Neighbors or Brian Thomas Jr.? Or could you start them both, Michael? Is that possible? If not,
I'm doing Neighbors. Doing Neighbors over here.
Oh, crap. Obviously, Neighbors is the better receiver. These two were former teammates at LSU. This is almost an unfair question because Brian Thomas had a really good week.
Brian Thomas has. I was shocked to see like how he performed last week. Like it was like
he's good.
He's very good, and he definitely isn't the shiny pick that Malik Neighbors was, but he is a very talented football player.
Right.
I'm just worried that he did so well. I'm a firm believer in it's hard to have 2 back-to-back really good fantasy weeks unless you're like Josh Allen. I'm wondering to see if he's going to be able to perform as well as he did last week, this week.
Michael, I'll be honest, this statement won't help you at all, but it's worth noting. Out of my 3 leagues, I'm still in the playoffs in 2 of them. I'm starting Malik Neighbors in 1, and I'm starting Brian Thomas Jr. in the other. So I know that statement doesn't help you, but they both hold value.
Yeah, there's probably not a bad pick here, right?
But keep in mind, that, and I can't believe I'm about to say this, Jacksonville has the better quarterback play right now because they have Mac Jones. They don't have Tim Boyle. Mac Jones is a massive upgrade over Tim Boyle. So I would consider this as well, and they are playing the Las Vegas Raiders. So, yeah. Also worth noting, Brian Thomas has scored double digits in fantasy PPR. This is, I don't know if your league is PPR. Let's see, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm sorry, this turned into a fantasy football show. This will be the last thing I say about this. He scored double digits 7 times this year. He has backed that up with another double-digit performance the week after 4 of those times. Also, he has recorded at least 76 receiving yards in each of the last 4 weeks. So take with that what you will. I hope this somewhat helps you. I know my analysis is probably saying maybe I should go with Brian Thomas Jr., but Malik Neighbors is a safe floor. Brian Thomas Jr. is not a safe floor. And that's all I'm going to say on that for now. And I do agree with this statement. If you have Nico and CD, I think you are fine.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe you should go with the higher floor, which is Malik Neighbors, based off that statement, but I'm going to leave that up to you, Michael. Go Bills. Honestly, yeah.
My AFC team. My other New York red, white, and blue team that I root for.
Appreciate it, Michael. Absolutely. I mean, when the Giants are out of it, go with the New York team. It's been a rough year, and plus we have Daboll and Shane. We have a lot of former Bills players, so it's been an interesting time with that. So, with that being said, let's get into the preview of the Giants and the Atlanta Falcons. One bad team, one mid team, 2 awful quarterback situations. One that doesn't have a legit starting quarterback on their roster. Another that does and is on his last legs of his NFL career, I hate to say, because I love Kirk Cousins. I do. Underdog story, yes. But unfortunately, he's never getting a Super Bowl ring. The injuries have hindered him. Atlanta has good O-line play. It's not that. It's just Cousins has been bad. They don't trust him. And I think what saves Atlanta is their schedule right now. They just took care of the soft Raiders. They barely skated by them, though, on the road, 15-9. Sam, could they beat another 2-win team this week?
Any given Sunday, it really is like so up in the air all the time. The Giants have lost so many games in a row, and you would think that streak would end at some point. But I don't know. Tom. I'm really struggling with this.
Yeah. The most Giants thing ever would be to win this game, win next week,
Right.
not get either of the top 2 QBs, and then get blown out by the Eagles in the season finale, finish 4-13, and then bring Daboll back.
That would be – I'm afraid that you just spoke that into existence. I'm afraid that that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Who's to say? But, maybe if there is, we're going to talk about it with Noah, but if there is some sort of change on the offense for the Falcons, we might be seeing a completely different team if Kirk Cousins isn't playing.
Right. Falcons are 7-7. They're 10.5-point favorites despite their quarterback controversy.
Incredible.
Giants have not won in Atlanta since 2007, the Eli Manning days.
Perfect. Amazing.
And I think another thing, too, before we bring up Noah in just about 60 seconds from now, the Giants' offense is last in the NFL in points per game, averaging under 15. They have scored just 20 points once over the last 5 games. Awful.
That 20 points, that was Drew Lock against the Cowboys, right?
Yes, Thanksgiving.
Yep.
But yeah, speaking of thankful for one of our good friends here of the program and the show, Noah Dawg Deibler from the proud state of Georgia. Noah, welcome to the show.
What's up, guys? How you doing?
Fantastic. Every day is paradise here, Noah. Really is.
Oh, yeah. Well, especially if you're going for the number 1 pick. That's been going great for you guys lately. Got to look at the bright side.
But who knows? Maybe Tom just ruined it for us by saying that we're going to win the next 2 games.
That's very possible as well. Yeah. How are you guys doing tonight?
I'm doing okay, but
not bad.
Yeah, it's not hard to feel depressed when I was watching the game last night and I was like, getting walked off by Desmond Ridder would be the most Atlanta Falcons ending of a game I've ever seen, and thankfully it didn't happen. But I mean, with the way they played, the last month and a half. The fact that that was something you actually had to worry about. I mean, that says all you need to know about how we've been playing lately. But, winnable game, keyword win, in quotes, because they've made no team look winnable recently. But yeah, I mean, we'll get into all the details. I looked up the script. There's a lot of fun stuff I get to discuss tonight, I see. So
Yeah, I'm ready to hop right into it. And you're talking about the last month or so of the Falcons. They broke that 4-game losing streak last night, by the skin of their teeth, basically. But Kirk is someone who's also struggled with primetime games and going, away games as well. What are you attributing these late season woes to? Because you guys started off pretty strong.
yeah, we started off really good, especially considering how horrible our first couple of weeks of the schedule were. I mean, you faced
Right.
Eagles on the road, the Chiefs at home on Sunday Night Football. We've already played the Bucks twice, and we've seen the past few weeks the Bucks look really good. I mean, their offense is explosive. Baker just absolutely tore apart the Chargers. But then I don't know what it was. They got to that second Saints game, which I knew was a toss-up game. I know a lot of people didn't think that, but I mean, it's one of those rivalry games to where records go out the window, stuff happens. But then I don't know what it was. It's like, to answer the question, two major things. Number one, that second Saints game was whatever happened with Kirk Cousins. That's when the switch flipped to where, it's funny to think how bad he's been lately. This is the same guy that passed for 505 yards against that same Bucks team I just mentioned just a couple, 2 months ago or whatever. Looks unrecognizable since that second Saints game. He had that stat where he went like 6 straight games with no touchdowns to like 6 interceptions. He finally got a pass touchdown last night, but I mean, barely cracked 100 passing yards. That's number one. That was the big addition in free agency to the team because we struggled so bad with quarterback play since – the last few years of Matt Ryan's career when he was kind of on the downhill, and then brought in Mariota, didn't work. Put in Ritter, didn't work. That was the big addition, $40+ million or whatever it is. To say it's been a mixed bag is an understatement at this point. That's number one. Number two has been the defense. The Falcons have a horrible defense as long as I can remember, but they were better last season. I wouldn't say they were amazing, but they were like average. And then, you go out, you get Matt Judon in a move. You get Justin Simmons, which I thought was a big signing. He was a beast in Denver. And it just hasn't worked out. They started the season all right. I wouldn't say amazing, but, pretty good. Keeping them in games for sure. There were games like that second Saints game I mentioned, the Chargers game, where the defense kept them in it, and they couldn't pull it out at the end because the offense sputtered. But, they've had a couple games, like the Denver one comes to mind instantly. I mean, my God, I don't know what the defense was doing that game. They just, they're giving up I don't have the exact numbers right in front of me, but if I had to guess, 25 or 26 points per game, negative points differential. They can't pass rush at all, which, I mean, the Falcons have not had a good pass rush in about 12 years. So that doesn't really surprise me. But, I mean, you get a guy in like Judon who, last time he was healthy, 2-3 years ago with the Patriots, I mean, this is a double-digit sack guy. And this season, he has like 3.5 maybe, just off the top of my head. It hasn't worked out. Yeah, I mean, the defense and the sputtering offense, it's a horrible combination. I mean, it's a good thing they're 7-7 and that the Bucks are the only other decent team in the division. I mean, if they were in any other division in the NFC, they'd be up, a creek without a paddle. Pretty much.
Yeah. You guys beat the Bucks twice this year,
yep.
Which is crazy. Those meetings were in the first half of the season, obviously. But before we get to the next question, just a couple comments here, Michael. Appreciate the acknowledgement there. I'm glad that helped. Hi, Mom. Your dedication to the Giants is admirable.
Hi, Mom.
Thank you.
I met her, by the way.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Very nice lady.
That was a great weekend. We'll have to talk about our little gentleman's bet we had.
Yep.
No money, just the typical gentleman's bet. Next question, though. What has gone wrong with Kirk Cousins over the past month? Obviously, Raheem Morris came out today and said he is non-committal to who the quarterback will be next
Mhm.
week. Usually when that statement is made, a quarterback change is being made. But with the team at 7-7 and the amount of money you paid Kirk Cousins, I don't know. I think Cousins should start another week, especially since it's against the Giants.
Right.
How much trust do you have in him at this point?
I mean, it's really tough to say. I'd say early in the season, I had a lot of trust in him. He had a little bit of a slow start the first couple of weeks, but then again, he had moments of brilliance, like in that second half against the Eagles, the Bucks game, which I already mentioned. He just absolutely went off in that game. And then, like I said, I don't know what it was, but when we got that second Saints game, I don't know if it's a confidence issue, maybe some lingering thing with his injury from last season, play calling. It was just a total 180. It wasn't like he just had a few off games. He went from being really good, definitely top half quarterback in the NFL to being, past month and a half, I'd say bottom 5 is probably being generous, which is crazy to say. I mean, he's just been absolutely awful, horrible decision making, terrible interceptions all over the place. I mean that Chargers game, no touchdowns to 4 interceptions. This was a game where on the other side, you only give up 17 points. You get in the red zone over and over again, and it's the same mistakes, turnovers, dumb penalties as well. It's not all just him. That's important to say. I know because he's quarterback, a lot of people just put on him. It's not all him, but I mean, it's at some point you got to start, throwing for some touchdowns, throwing for some yards. He doesn't have any excuses really because, I mean, compared to some of the crap I saw Matt Ryan deal with during his career, no offensive line, no running game. This guy has an offensive line. He has a really good running game. You got Drake London, you got Darnell Mooney, which was an amazing pickup, by the way. Kyle Pitts. I mean, he's got weapons. You got Zach Robinson and OC. That was one of the prime time OC candidates for people in the offseason. You got him in. I mean, what's the excuse, really? I mean, I understand the guy is 35 or whatnot, but Tom, every time I talked to you about this signing, I was like, man, this is exactly what they needed. I mean, a guy his entire career, 4,000 plus yards, 25, 30 touchdowns, low teens interceptions. This year he goes out, he has a career high in interceptions. It's like, how can you account for something like that happening? And again, like I said, I don't know how to explain it because it was so sudden. It wasn't like, oh, it's just a gradual decline. It was like a switch flipped to where he went from being good to being unrecognizable. And in regards to the whole Michael Penix thing, I hated that pick when they made it. I thought it was a stupid pick. They had big needs they need to make. You draft a quarterback that might not play for 2 to 3 years, and then you go out and see this, and you're like, well, first of all, he's already played. He came in the Denver game, which is a blowout, threw 5 passes, little cameo. And now you're talking, well, he might be starting way sooner than anyone thought he would, which at one point is exciting. At the other point, it's like we paid $40 million to have our quarterback on the bench. I mean, I know you guys can relate to that, but that's not what you want. It's definitely not what you want. I'm glad I'm not the one that has to make the call on whether or not to bench him. Is it official?
Whoa, Zach dropped news.
Sorry, old boy. Literally 3 minutes ago. Yes, it is official. This is from AtlantaFalcons.com.
Wow. Oh, my God. Well, that changes things.
No, this is Rap Sheet just posted it 3 minutes ago, so now we know for sure.
Wow, that's
take a moment to process it.
Little surprised. Just a little, though, because like I said, he's played so badly lately. I mean, you can't say you're too surprised. When I did see that Raheem Morris quote, I thought it was a little suspicious because, you don't openly commit to a quarterback you're paying that much money to. I did like him in college, Michael Penix. I thought he was pretty good. I do think they kind of reached on him a little bit at number 8, and especially because I thought he was going to be the backup for 2 years. I was like, don't like this. That's a big move to make, though, because the Falcons are in a playoff push. They're 1 game behind the Bucks. They do have that big tiebreaker over the Bucks, and I think they have a much more favorable schedule the last 3 games than the Bucks do. But you're still throwing in a guy that is a total unknown at the NFL level, which can work. less scouting and whatnot, but you're not throwing him into a no pressure situation like when these other teams make these quarterback changes where they take out a vet and put in a rookie. There's no pressure. The team is out of contention. That's totally different than what the Falcons are at right now. They want to make the playoffs, and they can't really afford to lose. I mean, they can lose maybe one more game and go 9-8, but that's about it. That's their only margin for error. They need to win at least 2 of 3, preferably 3 of the 3. So that's a big gamble. I will say I respect Raheem Morris. That's a big balls move, if you will, to do it at this point in the season. It does surprise me a little. There's not much else I can say. I just hope it works out. I mean, it's one of those things where it works out, you look like a genius. And if it doesn't, well, Kirk Cousins has been so bad lately that I guess it was worth a shot. But yeah, that little bombshell. Right as I'm talking about Kirk Cousins, wow,
that's $180 million guaranteed. Like
on the bench, yeah,
expensive. And you're right, we know how that feels, but like, damn, that is crazy. My goodness. All right, well, Michael Penix Jr.
Well,
sure.
Wow.
Okay.
If I can just throw his quote in there too, Sam, before we get to the next question. This is from Mike Garafolo. In quote from Falcons head coach Raheem Morris, after review, we have made the decision Michael Penix will be the Atlanta Falcons starting quarterback moving forward. This was a football decision, and we are fully focused on preparing the team for Sunday's game against the New York Football Giants. Okay, he didn't say football Giants, but I did.
But you did.
I swear, guys. I just know as soon as I get off from here, I'm gonna enter all my group chats. I'm just gonna be getting absolutely lit up to pieces because of this move. I'm gonna get trolled all over the place. I already know what's happening right now as we speak.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I love Kirk Cousins. I hope this isn't it for him as an NFL starter.
I don't know. Maybe it's the kick up his pants he needs, though.
And now, I'm sorry, Noah. Now, as Giants fans, you know what everyone is going to be reporting on. Should the Giants trade for Kirk Cousins next season? I think there's a no trade clause, though, isn't there? I don't know for sure.
It's basically they have an out after 2 years.
Okay.
So I think they're going to keep him at least 2 years. And then I don't know past that. So I don't think they would trade him. But then again, like I said, this isn't exactly a guy you can have on the bench either. So I don't know, man. That's a bombshell. Jesus.
Well,
my gosh.
Career high 16 picks for Cousins.
Yep.
Yeah, writing's on the wall. I'm just surprised it was this soon. And now everyone who was bashing Atlanta for drafting Penix 8th overall that night, maybe you should be bashing the GM for going out and signing Kirk Cousins to a massive 4-year deal if you know his injury history was – I don't know, Noah. Maybe I'm just having a spitball, spur of the moment thought here. But my gosh, maybe that's what has to be questioned more than the Penix draft pick. Now thinking back on it,
I don't
know, man.
I don't even know what to say, man. That's just I'm just not literally speechless, but like, wow.
Hey,
I've never. If you had told me 9 months ago, right, that Kirk Cousins injury with no injuries would not play the entire season, I would have said you're out of your mind. I would not have expected him to play until late 2025, preferably 2026. He's starting in his rookie year. And like I said, he has played before, but it was only 5 passes at the end of a game. That was like, we just got absolutely annihilated. It wasn't even a contest. This is totally different. And luckily it is at home, which you mentioned earlier. By the way, I got to say, I don't know how. It's weird that you guys lost to us in 2007 because our team that year was absolute garbage. That was the year where we had Bobby Petrino resign after a game and leave a note on the locker room saying, "I'm going to coach Arkansas," and obviously the whole Michael Vick situation. So that's crazy.
And Michael Vick got a job today too. What a crazy day.
I did see that. Yeah, I saw that.
What a crazy day.
Wow.
Well, are we ready to talk about Bijan Robinson now?
Oh, yeah.
We'll get back to Penix later, but
something positive to talk about.
I am personally, I've been riding my fantasy season on Bijan Robinson, so I'm very interested to hear what you have to say, Noah. about him playing this weekend, but specifically also just his season as a whole. He's been looking incredible recently. So how has he improved this offense? I mean, obviously it's been a bit of a struggle, but he's been fairly consistent, I think.
He's been a bright spot. He's been great ever since he came in, but last season I don't think we quite used him right. I think we had a lot of situations, especially on the goal line, where we would bring another running back in, like Cordero Patterson. When you have this big bell cow back, you drafted top 10 in the first round, give him the football. Another thing is, I think last season they had a very even split between him and Tyler Algier, who I love Tyler Algier, but he's a guy that from what we've seen works better. Less carries. I mean, his rookie season, he only had 210 carries, which was the most on our team, but I mean, that's definitely not a lot for a full season. And he was very efficient, had over 5 yards per carry. This season, he's averaging, I want to say like 4.8, and Bijan is 4.7 off the top of my head. Both very efficient. It's a great 1-2 punch. Obviously, Bijan is the lead guy, especially in the receiving game. But they have two capable options there. Play calling, running wise, I think is much better. But yeah, he's always been very good. I just think we've done a better job of utilizing his strengths this season in the passing game as well. I like him a lot. I mean, it's one of those picks to where I didn't like it at the time because I don't think drafting running backs high and paying them a lot of money ever really works because it's one of the most dependent positions in the NFL. But he's done well. I mean, there's no denying that. He's a big part of our offense. Very good runner. Another big thing with him as well. Last season, and his stats up this point, by the way, he is like around the same amount of carries in only 14 games that he had all last season. But a big thing as well, he had 4 fumbles last season, 0 this year. That's awesome for a running back.
Love that.
0. Yep.
Wow. Man, bombshell stuff happening on Big Blue Avenue right now. Bijan Robinson is a beast, but 2 other beasts this season, maybe not beasts, but highly
Very
valued, highly skilled players, Darnell Mooney and Drake London, each closing in on 1,000-yard seasons potentially.
Yep. What
has the addition of Mooney meant to Drake London and this Atlanta Falcons receiving core?
Man, Mooney, I really like him. He's a guy, well, first of all, I mean, you come from Chicago, which, I mean, we've seen in Chicago, a guy like Keenan Allen can go there, and it's just, I mean, basically wide receiver purgatory over there with their quarterback carousel. But I always thought he was, not an elite player by any means, but definitely a solid player, a solid number 2. Whereas in Chicago, I kind of felt it at times in his career that they were trying to make him more than what he was. I think for Mooney, he's a great number 2. And London, I think, is developing into that number 1. It helps Drake London, which, again, is funny to say this after, I just talked so much about how much Kirk Cousins has struggled. But earlier in the season, it really helped Drake London that he finally had a quarterback that was able to consistently get him the football compared to, guys like Mariota and Ritter, to where that was just not a thing at all. But, I mean, he's 18th in receiving yards this year. He's tied for 10th in catches in the league with 78 catches and 7 touchdowns as well. And while they've fallen down, the receiving leaderboards this season, there was actually a point earlier in the season, I want to say 3 or 4 weeks ago, both of these guys were top 10 in receiving yards. They've fallen down a bit because the quarterback struggles, with Kirk Cousins, obviously. But, I mean, I'm looking at the right now, and they're still both, top 20 in receiving yards. I'd say London's like top 15, and Mooney's a few places below. But they're both doing really good. 12 touchdowns between them. You add in Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is the most frustrating player I've ever seen in my life. There are points where he's just a total ghost. And then there are other times he had like a 4 or 5 game stretch this season to where he was just absolutely balling out. And you had a top 3 at the skills positions for Kirk Cousins to throw to that were all really good. And then Kyle Pitts kind of fades away once again. And then it goes back to the 2 wide receivers. And, obviously Kirk Cousins isn't really helping much anymore. But as for those 2 guys, I like them a lot. I think they're definitely pieces we can build around for the future years to come. Obviously, London's much younger than Mooney is. Mooney's not old, but he's definitely, a vet at this point. But yeah, I have faith in those 2. I think the problem for Drake London as well for a few years was It was basically Drake London and nobody else to throw to at wide receiver position. Maybe Kyle Pitts would have a good game here and there, but wide receiver wise, he was basically the only guy. Now you got two guys, and that really helps. And they also have, I think, underrated depth at wide receiver. I wouldn't say they have amazing guys, but I like some of their guys lower in the depth chart as well.
As a former Kyle Pitts fantasy owner,
oh my God,
I understand.
Mm-hmm.
I made that decision twice. I tried to give him a second chance.
Luckily, I never had him. I'm actually really hesitant to draft players on my team because I believe in superstition and jinxes. And every time I draft a player on my team, other than Darnell Mooney, funny enough, I've had him in both my leagues this year, and he's been really good. But, you know.
Well, to Zach's comment, no, unfortunately, I will not be benching my whole team. But may the best man win. It'll be a fun matchup this weekend. Let's talk a bit about your coach. Raheem Morris, obviously someone who's very defensive minded, but your lack there of a pass rush is very obvious. So what is this concern happening here as someone like Morris who should be excelling at this?
Well, first of all, I think a lot of it is personnel. I don't really think we have amazing guys in the front four. I mean, like I said earlier, Judon was our big addition, and I'm looking at his stats right now. He has 3.5 sacks in the whole season, 4 tackles for loss. Not what you expected for a guy that you go out and trade for. I know he's 32 years old, but like I said, the last time he was healthy in 2022, he had 15.5 sacks. I mean, that's really good. You don't expect that to just go away from an injury, but clearly he has not been what we expected. Our 2 sack leaders on the year are Caden Ellis and Arnold Ebikete, which are guys that you would not expect to lead your team in sacks, to say the least. Grady Jarrett is 35, I want to say, something like that. He's definitely getting on up there in age. He's still solid, but definitely not the guy he used to be. If about 4 or 5 years ago, he was an absolute animal. And, you know, we can't rush the passer, which Raheem Morris came from the Rams. Obviously, he formerly coached the Falcons as well. We had no pass rush then either, but our personnel was even worse then. So, I mean, that's understandable. I don't think it's all Raheem Morris. I don't think we have really anything to work with, which is horrible considering we've drafted so many defensive players over the years. And yet it feels like 10 years, the last 10 years, guys, I've been saying the exact same thing about the Falcons pass rush. I mean, you could just basically clip me saying the Falcons have no pass rush, play it for the next 5 years, and it would probably still be accurate in some way. It's just a total embarrassment. It's weird as well, right? Because I'd say our biggest strength is the secondary. But if you can't rush the passer, I mean, guys are going to get open. They're going to torch you deep every single time. That's just the way the NFL works. You cannot have no pass rush in the NFL. You know, we've been bottom 3 to 5 in sacks, and pressure rate is as long as I can remember, pretty much, outside of like a fluke season by Vic Beasley back in 2016. We haven't had a premier pass rusher since John Abraham, who hasn't played for the Falcons since 2012, I want to say. So, you know, partially personnel. I mean, we had some years with Dan Quinn, like leading up to Super Bowl, where our defense played better. I wouldn't say elite, but, you know, making plays when they needed to. But for the most part, I'd say 80% of the time I've been watching the Falcons, they've had no defense whatsoever. And that's why I was so happy to see last season that they were just average. This season, they've regressed. I don't know. Drafting the wrong guys, you know, getting stopgap free agents to come in. They have talent is the annoying thing. They have talented players, but they still can't get as much defensive stop. I mean, they're allowing 45% on third downs this season. That's not good enough. Too many big passes deep. No pass rush. Running defense has been all right at times. I mean, it's been a bit inconsistent, though, as well. So I don't want to put it all on Raheem Morris. It is his first year back. Let's be honest. The issues with the Falcons have come from years of very poor drafting, inconsistent play on the defensive side of the football. Don't think it's just him. But, you know, like you said, this is a guy that has a defensive background. He's been a coach for a very long time. I mean, I remember when he was the head coach of the Bucs. Yeah. That was freaking 13 years ago now at this point. He knows what he's doing. I'm not going to say he's an idiot or anything. He's a very smart guy, very nice guy as well. He's a guy I root for to do well. So, you know, I'm fine with giving him time to see, you know, get some more guys in that he wants on that defense. because I still think Justin Simmons is a good player. That was one of his big moves. Judon, I understand why they traded for him. It just hasn't worked out. Sometimes that happens, right? But the rest of these guys, a lot of these other guys have been here for years and years, or, before Morris got here. So, I don't think it's all him at all. I think, personnel, like I said.
Well, what's the identity then? Is it Caden Ellis? Is it Jesse Bates? Like Terrell? Like, is it the secondary as a whole? Like, what is keeping you? You guys have 7 wins, and the offense has not been great, or the quarterback position has not been great the last month and a half.
Right.
So clearly the defense is doing something. I mean, you did just come off a 4-game losing streak, so that does contradict a little bit what I just said. But for the season, you still have 7 wins. So the defense isn't an absolute dumpster fire.
Yeah. No, there's definitely some bright spots, like I said. I think Jesse Bates was one of the big bright spots. He had that interception in the Eagles game earlier in the year that won them the game. He had the interception that ended the game last night as well. I really like him. I've liked him ever since we got him before last season. Just a solid tackler. Big hitter as well. 4 forced fumbles this season, one fumble recovery as well, 3 picks. I definitely say he's the leader of that secondary. We still have A.J. Terrell as well, who I think flies on the radar as a cornerback. Really like him. I already said I like Justin Simmons. I'd say, the secondary is the bright spot. If you want to call that the identity, go ahead, with Jesse Bates as the leader of that unit. But like I said earlier, doesn't really matter how good your secondary is if you can't get pressure on the quarterback, because eventually someone is going to get open. We see this so many times, these plays where quarterbacks have 8 seconds to throw, and eventually someone's going to get wide open deep. That's just the way it goes. That's what I've seen a lot from the Falcons this season, since they can't get any pass rush. I do love Caden Ellis. I think he's a really good linebacker. Looking at some other guys, Mike Hughes, not a big fan of him. And then on the front 7, I already mentioned Grady Jarrett. I like him, but once again, he's a guy that's getting pretty old now. He's 31 this season. David Onyemata, I mean, if that's one of your leading guys in your defensive line at this point, I don't know what you're doing pretty much. So, yeah. Identity has not been present. I'll say that for like the past month and a half. Definitely.
Something I'm interested to hear your thoughts about. I'm a huge Baker Mayfield fan. So the NFC South for me has been fun to watch, because I do really love Kirk Cousins too, and it's like they're I guess like a mid division to begin with. So like, they're not fantastic, but I enjoy watching Baker Mayfield. So I've been rooting for the Buccaneers. Do you think that they are in for the NFC South, or do you think that the Falcons are gonna pull something out? Like, where is this division going right now?
Oh man, it's really tough, right? Because I expected we'd just be back to square one. I thought the Chargers would beat them. We both be 7-7. The last 3 games, like I said, I think we have the more favorable schedule. The next 3 we play play you guys. We play at Washington, who I think Washington's a really good team, but we just saw they almost lost to the Saints. They're not an unbeatable team, in my opinion. Our last game is at home against Carolina, which you would expect to beat. Whereas they play on the road at Dallas, which I know Dallas isn't great this year, but mainly because their coach. It's definitely not a gaming game by any means. And then they play at home to the Panthers and Saints, who, once again, divisional games, anything can happen. And we have that tiebreaker, like I said, because we swept them, which is big. So if we have the same record, we get in over them. All of that logically makes me want to say the Falcons win the South. But when you look at how the teams have actually played lately, you got to give it to the Bucs, and Baker has been incredible. I gotta tip my cap to him. I wasn't sure what he would do this season, because if you look at his career trend before this year, he'd have one good year and then one bad year over and over again. And the question was, could he have 2 good years back to back, because he was really good last year, and then this season he's been really good. He's been, dare I say, top 5 to 10. Would you say that? Do you guys think that's fair to say this season?
Yeah.
So
he's flirting with 5. I'll be honest, he's flirting with 5. If it wasn't for
I say top 5.
4-game losing streak they had in the middle of the season.
Yeah. Especially with some of the wide receiver injuries he had. Godwin, getting injured, and Mike Evans was out for a bit as well. And he's just been really good. Their offense looks explosive. I mean, they killed the Chargers, like I already said. They scored 51 against the Saints, a couple months back. Even the games they lost to us, it wasn't because of their offense. It was their defense couldn't get a stop whatsoever. They killed the Eagles early in the year as well. They killed you guys a few weeks ago. Don't think I'm going to forget that one as well.
Thanks.
No problem, buddy.
Yeah.
But, yeah, once again, I think we should still win the division just because we have winnable games. If Penix isn't a disaster, if he can just hold his own, just play average, play like an average NFL quarterback, they can win the next 2 out of their last 3. And then I think the Bucs might slip up against a team like the Cowboys or maybe the Saints. Just get the same record. If you go 9-8, if we both go 9-8 and we get in the playoffs, we're not going to do anything in the playoffs, but you would make the playoffs. But again, like I said, just based off play, the Bucs have looked really good lately. I mean, they've won 4 straight. We've been a total disaster. If it's based on that, they're going to win the South. And they do have that 1-game lead, which is an advantage for them. We need them to slip up. Destiny is not in our hands, which is something that irritates me greatly. But, it's their own fault, man. You got to deal with it.
Well, back before the season started, I made this bold claim.
You did.
If the Atlanta Falcons don't make the playoffs in 2024, Tom owes Noah New York pizza. Do you still hold me to this statement?
Tom, I don't even know why you bother asking this. You made me try New York pizza. It was one of the greatest things I've ever tasted in my life. I'm a guy that likes food, obviously, a lot. A big boy. I don't know why you would ever think that I've forgotten this bet for 1 second. The answer is absolutely yes. So if we do miss the playoffs, better be ready for that.
Oh, man.
I think you should get Noah pizza no matter what, because
yeah,
it's New York pizza. It's like,
don't play with New York pizza, man.
I'm telling you, that one place
in the world.
Yes, it is. That one place we went to is the closest thing you can get to New York pizza without actually being in New York.
Yeah.
So if you thought that was amazing, yeah.
Maybe one day.
Yes. Sure. Another college football game in a couple of years. All right. So I was about to ask, where are we? But we're here, and it's time to get into keys of the game. It's like we've hit the apocalypse. Like, oh, shit, Kirk Cousins got benched. What now? It's like the show stopped, but we've run long because of that, but it's fine because Kirk is a hot topic around the NFL and in our hearts, all 3 of our hearts as well. Quickly, though, Sam, what are your keys to the game for the Giants this week?
Well, I mean, I'm going to say I hope you guys have been, focusing on both quarterbacks and not just Kirk Cousins, because now you only have a few days to study up on some Michael Penix tape, which there isn't much of. So, yeah, this is very, very interesting in the fact that I guess the key to the game is to figure out Michael Penix. Like that is the big thing. Is he going to be handing the ball off a lot? Is he going to be chucking the ball to Drake London? Is he going to be running a lot? There's a lot of different things here to be considering. So I'd say that that's probably the biggest key to the game, as well as I don't want, as a fantasy Bijan owner, I don't want this to happen, but for the Giants' sake, you got to stop that kid like the way we did Derrick Henry. Like that's going to be a huge, huge part of that offense, I think, even with Michael Penix.
Oh, boy.
Oh, man. Keys to the game for the Giants first, right? I would say it's weird to say, right? Because obviously I went into all of this with the expectation Kirk Cousins would start. With Michael Penix is different because I'm looking at the script right now, and one of the things you guys have written down is pressure Kirk Cousins, which makes sense. Kirk Cousins is a statue of a quarterback, whereas Michael Penix has mobility. If you get to him, it's not a guarantee you're going to get him down. He can scrum out of the pocket. He can pass, throw on the run, something you would never expect Kirk Cousins to do. I'd say keys to the game, you definitely have to limit his mobility. Like Sam said, you got to slow down. You're not going to stop him, but you got to slow down Bijan. And I'd throw Algier in there as well. I think he's a really good number 2 that you can rely on. But that's easier said than done because the Giants' run defense is not very good. If the Falcons are able to establish the running game with a mobile quarterback like Penix, play action, rollouts, whatnot, with the weapons that they have, that would be a big thing. On the other side, I'd say for the offense, you're going against a defense that's really struggled lately. I think it's going to be a total cluster over there of two units that have absolutely no idea what they're doing lately. Just don't make any major mistakes on offense. Don't turn the ball over. Play the field position game. If the Giants start turning the ball over, they have absolutely no chance because, especially with their run defense. But yeah, those would be my main keys.
For me, it's you got to stack the box, contain Bijan Robinson because you want to make the rookie beat you. I prefer him beat us than Bijan because a lot of responsibility has been thrown on McFadden and those edge rushers this season. Bijan's got over 1,000 yards and 8 scores. The Falcons have a great running game and a good offensive line. Giants defense giving up just a shade under 5 yards per carry. It's gotten a little bit better over the past 2 weeks, but Lamar just crushed us with his arm last week. And Robinson's also a threat in the passing game. 411 receiving yards on the year. And I promised Zach we would get to this. Do we trust Drake London with Penix throwing the football?
I think he's a good player. I would say yes. As long as Penix isn't absolutely horrific like Marcus Mariota. I mean, you got to remember, Drake London did produce with quarterbacks like Mariota and Ritter. It wasn't what you would hope for a guy drafted as high as he was, but it wasn't like he was an absolute trash bum out there doing absolutely nothing. He's got talent. He's a big guy as well. He's like 6'4". If Penix just plays all right, Drake London is going to do his thing. Don't worry about that. It's all on the quarterback. I have no issues with him as a receiver. I'm not saying he's elite, but he's very good. He's very good.
He's still a young boy though. That's where you're a little concerned, a little Achilles heel there, but
that's what you have Darnell Mooney for.
Right, the old boy,
he's an old boy, man.
Sam, turn to you here. We just talked about Drake London. I'll take your watching Bijan this week under a microscope.
I'll say Bijan, but I'd love to bring up Darnell Mooney too, just because I feel like people are going to be focusing on Drake London a bit. And after hearing Noah speak his praises this entire show, basically, I mean, Darnell Mooney is somebody that is going to get the job done. It's not going to be Kyle Pitts, that's for sure. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on this offense in general. Like, this entire offense just got so interesting and so different just with the change at quarterback. So, I'll make those specific guys, but honestly, I'm just going to be watching that entire offense.
Yeah, that's well put. Noah, what about you? Who is under your microscope on Sunday? I'll take it. It's number 8, right?
That's the obvious one. I mean, that's basically what the entire offense revolves around. If he comes in, he looks like a rookie, he struggles. It'll be one of those ugly 17-14 type of games, I think. But if he comes in, and one thing I will say I always liked about Penix at the NFL or the college level, I always thought he was really smart. I mean, he had the talent, but he's a really smart quarterback as well. He's been, behind Kirk Cousins the whole season. I hope he's learned, first of all, what to do, and more likely from the last 6 weeks, what not to do from Kirk Cousins. But, like I said, the mobility, definitely the biggest player to watch for me. Like I said, Bijan, got to establish the running game, the wide receivers. I mean, it's tough to say the whole offense, but they have impact players all over the shop. Like I said, that's one that struggles lately have been so frustrating to me. I mean, this year they're 36% on third downs. That's embarrassing. That's a horrible mark with the offensive weapons that they have. That's absolutely atrocious. Turnovers we already mentioned. On the other side, I'd say Jesse Bates, obviously, I think is our biggest playmaker. Caden Ellis is another one. Some pass rusher, I don't know who, but please, just someone get back there. I don't care who it is. Tired of watching quarterbacks like Sam Darnold pass for 5 touchdowns, 400-ish yards, no interceptions against them. Saying it just makes me want to laugh. It also makes me want to cry. But please, somebody.
Yeah, that's a cry for help, ladies and gentlemen. That's what that is. And I think, in all seriousness, a player like J.D. Bertrand could answer that bell. J.D. Bertrand attended the University of Notre Dame. He is a linebacker. Troy Anderson just got moved to IR a few days ago, so there's a lot more pressure on Caden Ellis now. We know he's their leading tackler, 124 stops and 4 sacks, but J.D. Bertrand has a whopping 14 total tackles this season on special teams. He's been active most weeks, and I think he is seriously a player to watch on special teams. We know special teams could win football games sometimes, and when you have one bad team, one mid team like this, that's struggling as of late, that's playing like a bad team, a lucky bounce of the ball, a smart play, you could see Bertrand in there on a third down here and there, especially if this game gets out of hand. In fact, I think J.D. Bertrand could eventually be a future starter in the NFL. This is a closet player that nobody's talking about in the country other than me because I'm crazy. But J.D. Bertrand is my Atlanta Falcons defensive player to watch. Mic drop. And then offensively, I know, just terrible segue there. Sam mentioned Darnell Mooney. He's got 19 big play catches this season. He's played in every game this year, and the Giants' corner room is a mess right now. It's an absolute mess. Greg Stroman was starting last week. I don't think Noah knows who Greg Stroman is. I know you're a football nut, but
yeah, I have no idea who that is, man.
Yeah, so Mooney's going to go off. Fantasy owners. Robinson's going to go off. London's going to go off. Yeah, so those are my Atlanta Falcons players to watch. Sam, anyone we should bother with on the Giants, or should we just bypass
Micah McFadden. Always.
Yes.
That's our king. I'm going to say him just because. And you know what? We'll throw Neighbors into the mix too.
There you go.
Tim Boyle threw him a touchdown last week, and you know what? I respect that. Thank you, Tim.
Tim Boyle. That's the guy. That's the name I only know from playing Madden. If I didn't play Madden, I would no clue who Tim Boyle is.
We educated the people today. Everyone knows who Tim Boyle is now.
I will say though, Malik Neighbors, pride of LSU, Tom. He's a beast.
Yeah. So good that he's probably going to break some records. He's probably going to be the Giants' first 1,000-yard receiver since Odell Beckham. He's 99 yards away. He could do it this week. It could happen.
What is it with you guys and these LSU wide receivers? I just noticed that. Odell, didn't Sterling Shepard go? Did he go to LSU?
Oklahoma.
No, Oklahoma.
Okay.
Baker's teammate.
Yep.
Then and now. Now and later.
Yep.
Sorry, Noah, you were saying?
Yeah, I don't know. I was just rambling, man. But it's just a random thing that popped in my mind when you mentioned Odell.
Yeah. The LSU receivers have been a key cog of ours. Noah, anyone on the Giants you're worried about other than Malik Neighbors, or is that it? You can be brutally honest with us.
I mean, Tyrone Tracy has been pretty good for you guys lately. I'd definitely say him. 4.6 yards per carry. I'm not mentioning Daniel Bellinger. Brian Burns, I really like him. I always liked him even when he was with Carolina. He was a standout for them for a very long time. Thibodeau as well. Liked him in college too. Very good player. Missed some time this season, but I think he's really solid as well. I'll throw in McFadden, but you guys already mentioned him. They have mainly on defense. On offense, I think it's literally just Neighbors, and that's pretty much it, and maybe Tracy. But again, you got Tim Boyle at quarterback. So if this defense can't do decent against Tim Boyle, I mean, what are you doing? So, yeah. There you go.
Absolutely. I'm going to throw in Brian Burns as well. The Falcons are -7, folks, in the turnover differential this season. Look out. Burns can definitely get to the quarterback, even against a good offensive line like Atlanta's. I know Caleb McGarry's been a little banged up this season. Is he healthy, or was he in and out the other night, last night?
Actually, I was just let me check real quick. I was looking at the injury report earlier.
because it's early in the week, so it might not be out.
Yeah, I don't currently see him with the injury designation, so I assume he's going to be all right. I mean, he's played through injury a ton in his career anyway. I expect he'll be okay. If not, like I said, we have a mobile quarterback now, so if our offensive line does struggle a little bit more, that's something they can use to help combat that. But yeah.
Awesome. With that being said, folks, early in the week this week, Sam, let's get to our game predictions. I'll start with you here. Who are you going with?
What's the line? 10?
10.5. It might be a little less now with Penix starting.
I'll give, I'll put the rookie jitters into this mix. And Micah McFadden trying to jump on that. I'm gonna say 27-17 Falcons.
The line is down to 8. It was at 10.5. The line has moved by 2.5 points since the announcement of Michael Penix about half an hour ago. Noah.
And this was tough. I was thinking when Kirk Cousins was going to start, I was thinking like an ugly 20-17 or 17-14 game where we win, but it's not pretty, kind of like the Raiders game last night, which was 15-9. This one, funny enough, kind of makes me a little more optimistic because of how poor Kirk Cousins has been lately. How, like I said, Penix is an unknown, which can really help when they first go in at times because there's pretty much no film that you have on the guy, and he does have that mobile element as well, which I think can open up a lot for the offense that just isn't there with Kirk Cousins. Like I said, I think if he doesn't have to do amazing to start, if he just plays average with the weapons that this offense has against a Giants team is really struggling, they can win the game, and I think they will. I think it'll be something like, I agree with like a 10-point game, probably maybe like 24-14. I'd say is probably where I'm at right now with the score.
Okay. Well, now I have to rethink my score, although I might just stay with it regardless. I think Penix is going to have an okay first half. I don't think he's going to do anything great, but I think in the second half he'll pick it up a little bit. Again, he does have weapons, so it's too long of a game against a 2-12 team with a locker room type of secondary, a high school locker room type of secondary. Penix should throw for at least 200 yards, at least one touchdown pass, if not more. Bijan will get his stuff going on the ground. I'm going to go ahead and say Penix throws one, Bijan rushes for one. Younghoe Koo kicks a couple field goals. Giants keep it close. A good, valiant effort. And again, we don't know if Boyle's officially starting yet either. We're just assuming that because of DeVito's concussion. Falcons 20, Giants 17. Giants move one step closer to a top 2 draft pick. However, this is a game, ladies and gentlemen, that the Giants could win. This is not a unwinnable game. Been a lot of one possession games in the NFL this season, and we saw the Raiders with awful quarterback play in Desmond Ridder almost win on Monday Night Football.
That's so embarrassing to hear. Oh my God. And that quarterback of all quarterbacks, it just had to be him. I was about, if we had lost that game, I literally would have logged off social media permanently, and you would never hear from me again. That's how bad that would be. Thank God we won that game. Oh my God.
This has been a lot of fun with both of you tonight, but it is time to sign off. Noah, where can people find you and your work?
Well, mainly I'm over on the Sports Box. I have actually a new podcast I debuted about 2 months. Wow, it's already been like 2 months. That's crazy. Called the Sport Life Uncensored Show with my buddies David and Tyler. We talk NFL over there. It's not just Falcons, although I can rant about them a lot because they like to troll me. They're Saints and Cowboys fans, though, so they have it somehow even worse than I do. But we talk general NFL predictions, trivia, Mount Rushmores as well. We have one for NFL running backs this week, actually, that we're going to do Thursday night. That'll be fun. I'm sure not controversial at all. I also am over here on the Review and Preview Network. Don't really do my hockey one anymore because don't really have the time to. But I am still officially a member. So Tom and I did do the Review and Preview show earlier this season, where we also talked NFL on there. We'll see if that's coming back soon, maybe. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Sam, any final thoughts before we sign off tonight?
Just let Bijan run. That's it.
Just lose.
Just I don't even care if they win or lose. Just let Bijan run. That's all I ask.
Let's get Sam a fantasy football championship.
Amen.
I've never won one.
You just reminded me. I am actually in one of my leagues. I just got off the bye. We have single week elimination games in that one. So I'm in the second round there. But in my other one, I actually made the finals as well because I absolutely destroyed everybody because I have Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase in that league, which is just ridiculous. So yeah, I could have another championship, which I have won one. I've won like, I don't know, 5 maybe over the years. So maybe I could add some more, but we'll see. Need Josh Allen and Joe Burrow to keep lighting it up, and then they can sit in week 18 for all I care. Don't care.
Easy.
Yeah.
That's why, folks, always end your fantasy football season in week 17.
Yep.
Don't risk week 18 where starters don't play. Folks, if you want to check out Big Blue Avenue, you can here in all of our social media. On behalf of Noah Dawg Deibler, Sam Cardona Norberg, I'm Tom Scavetta saying so long. Good luck to your Falcons, Noah. And without further ado, let's go Big Blue.